All right, everyone, welcome back to our science class. So at the end of yesterday's class, when we left off, if you remember, we did an introduction to weather, and we learned a couple of things that we were going to be talking about during our weather unit. And as I said, the first thing we're going to do is talk about clouds. So at the end of class yesterday, we all made our cloud finders, because again, I told you, you didn't have to memorize what the clouds look like. We're going to use our cloud finders to help us. And we'll be going outside later on to identify what type of clouds we see in the sky. So let me go ahead and share my screen with everybody. All right. So before we get into clouds, we're going to watch a little introductory video here just to explain a little bit about clouds and what they're like. So go ahead and take a look.
Hey, cool. Are those supposed to be clouds? Dear Tim and Moby, what are clouds made of? From Mike. Well, real clouds aren't made of cotton. The air around us is full of water vapor. When that water vapor cools, it condenses around particles of dust and smoke to make tiny water droplets. Clouds form when millions of these water droplets gather together. Right, when it's really cold, vapor will condense into ice crystals instead of water droplets. That cloud on the left is made of water droplets. Its edges look solid, and it can be gray in color if the cloud is thick enough. The cloud on the right is made of tiny ice crystals. It has fuzzy edges, and it's almost pure white. You can tell a lot just by looking at clouds. Cumulus clouds look the most like cotton balls. They're puffy and white with flat bottoms. These stratus clouds form in layers. The fog you sometimes see in the morning is made of low stratus clouds. These feather-like cirrus clouds are made of ice crystals. They're bright white with wispy edges. Lots of times you see combinations of all these clouds in the sky. They come in all different shapes, sizes, and shades of gray. Wow, you really got into those clouds. Sure, I can definitely see the different types.
All right. So there's a little introduction about the different types of clouds. So again, our goal for today is we're going to talk about what are the three main types of clouds and how can we help remember them and identify them in the sky. So the first cloud type we're going to look at here is what we call our cirrus clouds. And cirrus clouds are, first of all, they're high clouds. So they're the ones that we see way up in the sky. And they're the ones that kind of remind us of feathers. Now, when we see a cirrus cloud in the sky, that indicates that there's going to be some sort of weather change. So if you look over to the right of your screen, then we can take the cirrus clouds and combine them with other types of clouds to get a couple of different meanings. So for example, we could do the cirrus stratus cloud. So again, we have those feather-like weather changing clouds that cover the sky. And when we see those clouds in the sky, we know that there's going to be some light rain. We have cumulus clouds. So again, the cirrus clouds are high feather-like clouds in the sky. When we see the cumulus clouds, then those are those big puffy fair weather clouds. So when we see a combination of the two, they are high fair weather clouds. Finally, the last type of cirrus cloud you might see are what we call contrails. And these are probably really familiar to you. When we see contrails, those are those high cirrus clouds. And those are the trails that we see that are left behind from a plane or an aircraft. So oftentimes when you're looking up in the sky and you see a plane flying by and you kind of see a cloud forming behind it, well, those are what we call contrails. All right, so before we move on to the next type of cloud, I want you just to stop and think for a minute. So we just talked about a cirrus cloud meaning a high feather-like cloud. So I want you to just think for a minute, how does that make you feel? So when you see these high feather-like clouds up in the sky, what thoughts come to your mind? So what kind of feelings do you get? What kind of emotions do you get? How are you feeling when you see these feather-like clouds? All right, now that you've had a chance to think about it, what thoughts come into your mind? So what feelings do you get when you see high feather-like clouds?
Sometimes I might feel nervous because the weather might be changing and I don't know what that means.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a perfectly acceptable feeling. Okay, just kind of that feeling of nervousness, feeling of the unknown. Sure. And I think that's how all of us would feel when we, see something in the sky that, we're just not quite sure. We know there's going to be some sort of change. We just don't know what's going to happen. All right, good. All right, moving on then to the next type of cloud. We have our cumulus clouds. So again, if you take a look at your screen there, cumulus clouds are those big puffy clouds. And oftentimes when we see cumulus clouds in the sky, we know that the weather is going to be really nice, really fair weather. All right, so again, if you take a look over at the right side of your screen, we can take cumulus clouds and combine them with a couple of other types of clouds to get some different things happening in our weather. So again, we can have a cumulonimbus cloud. So a cumulus cloud, again, we just talked about, is a big puffy cloud. But then when we add nimbus to it, nimbus means a storm cloud. So a cumulonimbus cloud is going to be a big puffy storm cloud. So when we see these type of clouds in the sky, we can anticipate heavy rain for a short period of time. We can also have an alto cumulus cloud. So again, right there in the middle, alto means high. All right, and then when we add cumulus to it, we have high, gray, puffy clouds, which again can mean a thunderstorm later that day. So it might be nice out now, but we might anticipate a thunderstorm coming later. So the nice thing about these cumulus clouds is, again, when we see them and they're nice and white and fluffy, we know that there's fair weather. But when we start adding like a cumulonimbus or an alto cumulus, we know that thunderstorms are probably either on their way or coming later in the day. So they're a little bit more predictable than a cirrus cloud might be. So again, before we move on to the third type, we're going to stop and just think about. So cumulus clouds are those big, puffy, fair weather clouds. So when you just look up into the sky on a nice day, similar to like it was today, and you see those big, puffy clouds that look like cotton balls, what feelings come to your mind now? So again, don't think about the cumulonimbus for now. Don't think about the alto cumulus for now. Just think of a regular cumulus cloud, those big, puffy, white clouds. What thoughts come into your mind then?
What? Sometimes they look like animals and then it might make me feel happy.
Sure, yeah. So those are the clouds that we often can look at up in the sky, and we can make animals out of them. All right. And again, that probably brings you, feelings of happy or feelings of joy. All right. When you can look up in the sky and see some of your favorite animals that we can form out of clouds using our imagination. That's a great answer. All right. One more type of cloud then to look at here is our stratus cloud. So again, with the stratus clouds, those are low clouds. So when we look up in the sky, those are the ones that are very low hanging. And those are blanket clouds that often cover the sky. And usually when we see a stratus cloud, we can expect drizzle. All right, so some sort of weather that's going to be bringing rain. All right, so again, one more time, I'm going to ask you to think. When you look up in the sky, then you see these low stratus clouds that are just covering the entire sky. All right, and again, with these clouds, you know that there's rain probably coming. So again, it's a little bit different from a cirrus cloud in that it's not really an unknown nervous feeling anymore. It's a known feeling, okay, because we know that rain is probably coming. All right, is there anything else that pops into your mind when we think about a stratus cloud? Any kind of emotion or any kind of feeling that you might have when we have low stratus clouds?
Say it's raining outside, so that makes you sad. You can't play outside.
What? It might make me feel sad.
And sure, and why might you feel that way? Why might you feel sad when you see stratus clouds?
Because they're like hanging down a lot.
Sure, yeah. So again, you might kind of feel that feeling of sadness because those clouds almost look like they're really, really close to us and they're kind of hanging down right on us. And with that known feeling that rain is coming, it might just kind of bring an overall emotion or a feeling of sadness. And again, that's okay. All right, good. Okay, so the last thing we want to look at here then, now that we've talked about the 3 types of clouds, let's look at ways that we can remember it. So we're going to need a little bit of interaction here from our class as we're going through these. So the first one we're looking at is, again, the Cirrus Cloud. And the word cirrus sounds a lot like the word circus, okay? So everyone go ahead. We're going to make a tent with your hands stretched high up into the air. So everyone go ahead and do that right now. So let's take our hands, let's stretch them high into the air, and let's make a tent. And again, that's going to remind us of a cirrus cloud because cirrus sounds a lot like circus. And again, those cirrus clouds are high up in the air. All right, so there's our cirrus cloud. The second type of cloud we talked about was a cumulus cloud. So the word cumulus sounds like accumulate or when you gather things up. All right, so now we're going to take our hands and we're going to accumulate or gather up those big puffy clouds. And we're going to do that right in the middle of our body. Because again, cumulus clouds can sometimes be in the middle of the sky. So go ahead and take all those clouds right in the middle of your body and just bring them together. Okay, so do that again. So we're accumulating these cumulus clouds right in the middle of our body and we're pulling them close to us. Because again, these are the big puffy clouds. These are the ones that we like, the ones that make us feel happy, the ones that we can often, make shapes out of in the sky and just gives us a good feeling. All right. And finally, the last type of cloud we looked at here was a stratus cloud. So stratus sounds a lot like the word straddle. So to help us remember a stratus cloud, we're going to straddle low to the ground. Okay. So to do this, go ahead right where you are at your seat, stand up. All right. Now, when you're standing, I want you to go ahead and straddle or get as low as you can to the ground. So go ahead and get as low as you can to the ground. Almost do a split if you can. So you probably won't be in my screen for a little bit, and that's okay. Good. And again, that's supposed to remind us that stratus clouds are low to the ground. All right. And they cover the entire sky. Perfect. All right. Go ahead and jump back up into your seat, and we'll wrap up here together. All right, so this morning we talked about our 3 types of clouds. So again, just to remind us what they are. So we have our cirrus clouds. Those are our high clouds. Our cumulus clouds are clouds that are oftentimes in the middle of the sky. And then finally, our stratus clouds are our low clouds. So tomorrow, what we're going to do then is we're going to take the cloud finders that we made and we're going to head outside and we're going to look up into the sky. And we're going to use the cloud finders to help us identify what types of clouds we're seeing. We're going to use that to help us predict what type of weather might be coming. And then finally, we'll take some time again to talk about, how does that make us feel when we know different weather is coming or when certain weather is going to be sticking around for a long time. All right. All right. So hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. And again, when you go home this afternoon, think about clouds. Think about how they make you feel. Think about what emotions that brings into your mind. And again, sometimes they might be happy emotions or they might not be so happy depending on the weather.